It is safe to say that Google Maps has revolutionized our lives in a huge way. We are no longer confined to paper maps, but we're able to view places we want to visit on a computer screen in high definition. However, that being said, sometimes Google Maps captures things that were never meant to be seen or things that are far too disturbing to look at and will most definitely keep you up tonight. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary locations on Google Maps. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at number 5, abandoned gas masks. Pripyat, Ukraine is a ghost city in northern Ukraine near the Ukraine-Belarus border. Named after the nearby Pripyat River, the city was founded on February 4th, 1970 as the 9th nuclear city in the Soviet Union to serve their nearby Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It was officially proclaimed a city in 1979 and had grown to a population of 49,360 by the time it was evacuated on the afternoon of April 27, 1986, the day after the Chernobyl disaster. This was of course a nuclear disaster that occurred on Saturday, April 26 in 1986 at the number 4 nuclear reactor in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It is considered the worst nuclear disaster in history and is one of only 2 nuclear energy disasters rated at 7, the maximum severity on the International Nuclear Event Scale, the other being the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. Pripyat is now quite literally a ghost town with abandoned buildings that won't be inhabited for a very long time. Now this has all been captured on Google Maps where you can see the abandoned town stuck motionless in time. However, the creepiest sight in the whole area has to be the room full of abandoned gas masks. Now whether this is creepy because of the sheer amount of them or simply because they are child-sized located in an abandoned school, I just don't know. But it is very creepy to look at. Coming in at number 4, Scientology Base. Also known as Trementina Base, this is a popular designation for a property of the Scientology affiliated Church of Spiritual Technology near Trementina, New Mexico. According to the church, an entity formed to manage the Church of Scientology's copyright affairs, the purpose of the base is to provide storage space for an archiving project to preserve Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard's writings, films, recordings for future generations. Hubbard's texts have been engraved on stainless steel tablets and encased in titanium capsules underground. This project began back in the 1980s. Now this base looks absolutely terrifying from Google Maps. It's just 2 overlapping circles with diamond shapes in their centers. It's an odd creation which has caused some people to believe that the real purpose of the base is to signal aliens making their way to Earth. However, an ex-Scientologist adamantly denied the claims and that insisted it is to guide other members towards the works of L. Ron Hubbard. Coming in at number 3, El Bronx, Colombia. The Bronx was a sector adjacent to the Plaza de los Martires in Bogota, belonging to the National Voto neighborhood of the town of the same name, in the city center. During the second half of the 20th century, it underwent a strong deterioration process, which, after the dismantling of the neighboring city of El Cartucho, became the main center for the sale and consumption of drugs. Now this all began after the assassination of the leader Jorge Alacia Gayton and the popular uprising known as the Bogotazo, with the Bronx undergoing a strong urban deterioration process along with the rest of the center. Together with the neighboring neighborhood of Santa Ynez, the sector was severely affected by the inauguration of the Salta City Transportation Terminal. Up until this point, this had worked informally on Caracas Avenue, and its end resulted in the creation of the Aeropuerto of El Catacho, a place that was subsequently dismantled and recovered, resulting in a new center of crime concentration known as the Bronx. In the Bronx, innumerable cases of drug micro-trafficking, human trafficking, forced prostitution, mutilation, and murder occurred since its creation, until its last 2 years, where Bogota police officers were bribed by the mafias of the sector to allow drug trafficking in the area. It became one of the most crime-riddled regions in the country. However, thankfully, it doesn't exist anymore. However, the Bronx still exists on Google Street View. Coming in at number 2, Ariel Castro's blurred out house. Now, to begin, Ariel Castro was an absolutely disgusting person, as evil as they come. Back in 2002 to 2004, he kidnapped Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Georgina Gina De Jesus, and held held them captive in his home in the Tremont neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio. The three girls were imprisoned up until May 6, 2013, when Berry escaped with her 6-year-old daughter, to whom she had given birth to while imprisoned, and contacted the police. The women were rescued within hours, and Castro was arrested. Castro was ultimately charged with 4 counts of kidnapping and 3 counts of rape. He pleaded guilty to 837 criminal counts as part of a plea bargain and was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years in prison without the possibility of parole. 1 month into his sentence, though, he committed suicide by hanging himself with his bedsheets in his cell. So how exactly is this crime related to Google Maps? Well, the house Castro kept the women in can be seen on Google Street View. However, the house is completely blurred out. Can't tell what's creepier, the idea of seeing the house standing motionless or seeing it blurred out. The latter somehow makes the seriousness of the crime even more disturbing. And finally, coming in at number 1, Nagoro, Japan. Nagoro, now known as Nagoro Doll Village, is a village in the Aya Valley on the island of Shikoku in Tokushima Prefecture, Japan. It is known for the large quantity of realistic dolls positioned throughout the village, in turn making Nagoro a tourist attraction. Now, the village itself is located on Route 439 in the Aya Valley in a remote mountainous area. It formerly had around 300 inhabitants, however the decline in Japan's population caused it to fall to 35 by January 2015, 30 as of August 2016, and 27 by September 2019. Now, what is the backstory behind the village and its unique dolls? Well, in the early 2000s, Tsukimi Aono, whose family left the area when she was a child, moved back to Nagoro to look after her father, and made a doll in his likeness that she placed in a field. Since that day, she has made more than 400 dolls, and about 350 of them are in the village. Many of the dolls resemble former residents, while others are invented people. Now, Aona isn't the only one to craft these creepy-looking dolls. Others quickly followed in her footsteps. The village school, which ultimately closed in 2012, includes a large number of dolls in one classroom. 2 children are self-portraits for the last 2 students to study there, who dress them in their own clothes. The village has since become a tourist attraction, is now known as Nagoro Doll Village, which you can easily spot on Google Maps. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any scary locations that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scary subterranean SCP monsters part 2. Jiro Sama said, I hope Lucy notices me. I noticed you. Well done. Big day for you. Chris Plays said, does this woman eat or drink anything? She is so pale. No, I'm so pale just because I don't go outside. I don't look at the sun. I don't acknowledge its existence. Nylathatep Lives said, Lucy, you look tired. Were you up having nightmares? No, I just look tired all the time because I am tired. We're all tired. Rebel855 said, Lucy is definitely one of my weirdest crushes. I can't tell if that's a backhanded compliment. I think it is. Why am I weird? Please explain. Dayrocket Boom said, 237, did anyone else hear corona? I sometimes just mutter coronavirus because I believe it's gonna kill us all. I think my roommate has coronavirus, can't confirm. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. Until next time, see you later.